I want to show you how to just add a stinger hook for walleye jigs in particular. Today I'm going to be tying on a 1/4 ounce round head jig. It's got a Mustad hook 32755 1/0. This is the gold fine wire hook. They don't make these anymore as far as I can tell. Can't find them other than in bronze. The bronze hook is a okay alternative. Other thin wire dry fly hooks at a number 6 size would work just fine. We're going to use the same 3 tools just for tying. You know, my size A cherry red pack bay thread on the net craft spool, my barber scissors, and my X-Acto knife. And then to tie the stinger hooks, I have an old pair of fly tying scissors with a serrated blade. Nice big loop so I can keep that in hand as I'm tying, and just a small pair of pliers. Our stingers are going to be attached with, this will be 25-pound test monofilament. Also, we'll attach that stinger to the shaft of the jig, again with size A, and in this case good red, just an old good red spool. You'll see that I have it measured from the base of my universal 2 vise, and it's about 6 inches or so, and those are the pieces I'll be cutting. So let's get started. Using my fly tying scissors and our pliers. So I'm just going to snell these real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pretty simple. Easily. I'm just saving a little bit of time here. So I'm going to take the orange I'm going to take this down just past the bend of the hook after locking it on, and then back up to about 2/3 point on the shaft of my hook. As these threads crisscross, makes a nice strong, it locks on real tight. So I take the hook I just snelled, I place it underneath the thread, and then set it on top of the shank of the hook. Now I have marks on the top of my vise here for different lengths if I wanted, but for a standard walleye jig I put the eye of the stinger hook just about in 1 eye to 2 eyes length behind the bend of the jig hook. Okay. So now I can add wraps back up to the jig head itself. Sometimes that mono likes to bend underneath. These are nice tight wraps. My father, who taught me this many years ago, could put those wraps on so tight that they would bite into the mono, and he would trim it flush to the jig head, that tag piece. But what I like to do is I like to snip it, but leave just a little bit, just a little tag. But what I'm going to do is fold over and then wrap my thread back down past where we stopped the thread originally. And occasionally I take my hands off just so I can position that mono back right on top of that shank of the jig hook. So I add my wraps down, and this is about halfway between the tip of the hook and the bend of the hook. Then I'll reverse my wraps back up to the center. Then I'm going to just finish it off again like I'll do with my collar. Just take a piece of scrap thread of a different color, about 12 inches long, and make a loop. Pass it underneath my thread just like you did with the mono, and then I'm going to add 3 or 4 wraps. Pass the tag end up through my loop and just pull it through. Don't do any fancy whip finishing. You know, people that are comfortable with whip finishing, and they probably do that just as quickly as I added a stinger. So there we have the stinger hook. What I'm going to do is then, once I have a dozen or so tied, I take my head cement. This is a Wapsi head cement. It's lacquer based, thins real nice with lacquer thinner, and I just add some head cement to each side of that. Helps protect the threads from those walleye teeth, pike teeth, pickerel, anything that's grabbing this with little teeth. And there we have the stinger hook added. And this is, you know, this is gonna stay. You know, you're gonna get a big fish on there. That's not coming off. Yeah, let's see if I can show you how it's aligned. They're aligned, the 2 hooks. I don't get too bent out of shape. I break the thread like that. Especially on this part of the jig, I can fix that pretty easy. So since I'm fairly close to Oneida Lake, I think what I will tie is favorite color of that lake. Works great on walleye. I'm going to use some nice dark purple and black bucktail. Do a black and purple with a stinger hook. So I lock on my thread. I bring it down about halfway down the shank. Probably overdo it just a little bit since you have this orange layer of thread. You know, all that thread there is just going to lock into place. I could have stopped halfway, but just out of habit I go halfway down the shank. And I'm going to take a pinch from this tail. This tail has a lot of long hairs. Just a lot of uneven, like here's some medium-sized hairs and there's some longer ones. So I'm going to take a fairly good-sized pinch. And I'm going to just pull out those shorter hairs. I do this 4 or 5 times. Then I switch my grip and I'll stack. There we go. Let's see so you can see it. I'll stack where I pull out those longer hairs. Place them back in my pinch just to restack. Now the idea is, you know how thick you want your jig to be, and this color is half that. The way I tie, I start with the darkest color first, the color that's going to end up on the top of the jig as you're fishing it. And I'm just going to measure. Pinch real tight. I can switch my hands as long as I keep that pinch tight. I'm going to measure the length of this hair to where the silver and the black meet on my universal vise. Sometimes I add a finger up here just so I can see. Use my finger as a backdrop so we can see where the hairs land. That's a good clump. Switch my grip. I keep this very, very tight. This left hand pinch will stay tight until I let go of the jig. Trim that along my fingers and place this right top of the jig hook, right along the head. Nice tight wrap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to lock it down. Okay, and then I give it a twist. I'm rolling that hair to what will be the top of the jig. Just roll it over the shank. The thread, as it locks the hair on, compresses the hair where the thread is, and it makes a, I don't know, what do you call it, an indent in that section of the hair. So the hair is going to be sticking up a little bit higher, closer to the head and closer to the tail. And as we wrap, as I add the second color and wrap towards the head, the tension on my thread is going to be a little bit less than what I applied to lock the hair on. So that shape, that V shape that's created in the hair as it's compressed, and another reason why we keep that pinch nice and tight, it's going to lock the hair on there. This hair is not going to come out. So old style jigs with that collar, it's that same principle. That collar creates a dam, so your thread can't move one way or the other, your hair can't move one way or the other. but I'm able to do that just with the pressure of my wrap. So here again, we're just measuring the length of the second color from the head to the end. I use my finger as a backdrop just so I can see where the black and the purple hairs line up. I removed a couple that were a little bit long. You know, you have a couple hairs long and it's tickling the nose of the walleye and you're getting short strikes and don't know why. So I trim that. Keep my pinch nice and tight as I lay this on top. I'm going to lock this into place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Typically I would keep my pinch just like this and I would finish the head, but I'm going to just remove my hand so you can see a little bit of space between the thread and the head where the hairs kind of flared out. I'm going to finish my wrap just up to the head. And then back. I go about halfway, 2/3 of the way, and then back to the head. And then I kind of, for this one, I did a couple crisscross in between just to finish the shape of that collar, so it's cone shaped. I have to cut myself another scrap piece of thread. Throw my other piece in my waste bag. 12 inches, fold it over to make a loop. I pass this underneath my red thread and place it on top of my collar. And I can add enough wraps just back to about the middle and then back to the head. I keep tension in between my hand and the jig as I'm holding the thread to trim. Now I can take my tag piece, pass it through the loop, and pull it right through. Sometimes I get stuck on my own stinger. Look at that. Nice jig. I can hold the hair down. You can see the hair extends about 1/8 of an inch past the stinger hook. And to finish this off, I'm going to use that Wapsi head cement again. There we go. Black and purple with a stinger hook, black head, red collar. Perfect Oneida Lake walleye jig.